On today's episode of Tuesday Talks with Opie, I sit down with the incomparable Myea Rice. Myea shares her views on gaining mental wellness, the importance of filtering what we allow ourselves to consume, and why she loves uplifting and sharing the victories and accomplishments of others. Join us for today's conversation. And welcome to another episode of Tuesday Talks with Opie. Today, my guest is the lovely Myea Rice. Thank you so much for joining me on today's Tuesday Talk. So today we're going to get into a few things that has been on my mind, and I just thought you were the perfect person to really talk about it with, because you're just so honest and open with just even your own experiences. And it's a really good feeling to be able to talk about the things that affect us, especially in the Black community, when it comes to like mental health, the pressures of, the pressures that we put on ourselves to exceed a certain level and go even further, and also Black excellence in general. So I was like, no, I know the exact person I want to talk to. So thank you again for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So before I even started recording, we were talking about mental health and basically, why it's so important for us to talk about it in the community, as well as how we can change the narrative of it being such a taboo. To me personally, sometimes I see that a lot of people are not open to discussing how that actually affects us as a community. What are your thoughts on that? And what do you think we can do to combat the taboo?
Oh man, there's a whole lot to unpack structurally, definitely socially, but I'll say there were so many contributing factors. It's so hard for us to figure out where to start. And what I always tell people, a lot of times I have like very deep conversations with a lot of people our age, and even, I got good friends that are in their 60s and things like that, and they're really, really, really great mentors in a way to me. And I will say the easiest thing to do is start with yourself. And man, like, well, let's talk about like the first thing that I feel like we encounter all the time, like we were getting to, is like this whole idea of us having this expectation of being emotionless and being resilient and throughout so many hardships. And it's just unrealistic to be a human and not be impacted by the things that are surrounding us. And that may mean the structural things that are in place when it comes to the history of the world. Because I would just, make it this microcosm of the United States, but the world. I think it's much bigger than that. And then also when it comes to like social expectations, what I see is a lot of narratives being, generated across social media. And there's this, this classism. We already know about like colorism. We know about the difference, like the clashes between the genders alone is what's most heartbreaking.
Right.
So, and I'm just like, man, when you start to unpack, I'll say for myself, my own experience, when you start to unpack and be gentle with yourself, it unlocks your ability to be gentle with the next person and be wise and still know how to draw boundaries. Like that's very, very key, because too many times we allow too much into us. We digest the wrong things, not just food. But I'll tell you, like I tell all my friends, I exclusively watch cartoons. So any movie reference you have will fall flat right here. It will. It's just like, man, you don't know that scene? I'm like, no, I don't. And I had to realize there are a lot of things that come across the variety of screens we have in our access, or that we have access to. Oh man, there's so many things that come across those screens, and I didn't realize it was tearing me up. I have bad dreams. Whatever I digested that week, it will come to fruition in my dreams, and I'll lose sleep literally. So I had to realize certain content I can't even watch, even as
Right.
harmless as it may be, and I have to be subjected to it through whatever training or whatever. If I happen to be in the same space, I had to learn to start praying. Like, we just pray over food. No, we pray over movies. I pray before text messages. I pray before this conversation. It's just like, giving myself that check, and then it's almost like a reminder to one, acknowledge your boundaries, and lastly, give yourself the space to communicate effectively.
Mm.
So I think we always want to point externally all the time, and I think a lot of it is about doing the work, and that way we can kind of start to tackle the things we're expected to do as a society. We I say as a society, but I mean as a Black community specifically. I'm
Right.
focused on the Black community because I am Black. Like, I can't help it. Black
Absolutely.
American, but that's my existence. So I don't know. I definitely say that we have a lot of things that are gonna attack us mentally,
Right.
and our biggest form of defense is going to be making sound decisions, being disciplined in those decisions, acknowledging the truth about ourselves, because we always say we want the truth, but a lot of us are operating in a sense of delusion, and it hurts. Like, I be crying. Like, I just sometimes you got to release it when you realize, man, I'm ate up when it comes to dating. Account- a lot of people ask for accountability and don't realize it's a two-sided coin. It's two sides of the same coin. So when we're looking externally, not to absolve anybody of any injustices they commit against us, but understand that accountability
And the
applies.
responsibility also falls onto us too,
Right.
our
So
actions.
yeah, and I think when we stop looking externally for someone to fix us, just because someone may have externally hurt us, we definitely can make significant progress. I just I would love that for all my friends. If there's anything I'm passionate about, I'm an IT major, and I was just like, man, how did I end up being so passionate about mental health? Um, and this is where it is. It's like, hey, man, like the insecurities, we have the power to do that. And I think it requires you acknowledging your power to make the decision. And it's almost a form of weakness to look and be like, hey, I need you to fix my problem.
Right.
That
Right.
doesn't mean, I think that's crazy. I see a therapist, and honestly, I don't want to be a serial therapist attendee because I think sometimes you could paralyze your growth. But my time with the therapist has facilitated progress because sometimes we do get stuck. And if it's not progressing you out of that space, maybe you should probably relook, who it is you're working with, what it is you're working on, and possibly just being honest with yourself, being an honest broker about where you are. Assessment is key. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh, it did.
I just
Self-assessment is key to yeah, it's very true. I think you're right about us looking inward into ourselves, and instead of putting blame on others to fix what is really going on within ourselves. And like you said, but that doesn't excuse others or how they, act towards you, but we are in control of how we act upon those things done to us, and how and where we perceive our life, and how we want to move on from there, transition from there. um how do you deal with the so let me even start over, even before I get into that. You're someone that went to a prestigious, university, an officer in the military, and as a Black woman in that space, that's very limited. There's not a lot of people that look like you. Of course, as the years progress, you're going to see more. That's what we want. With progress, we want more people that look like us working in the same place that we're in. However, right now, you're still at a place where how you act, what you do, what you say is almost like you're the spokesperson for in whatever room you're in. there are other people that are there, but you are the spokesperson at that moment when you're in that room. How do you deal with that expectation of, oh man, I don't want to mess up, because this can really affect how they look at the whole of us, even though we're not all the same.
Mm-hmm. I definitely, oh man, I am known as the blunt person in the building. I think I've always been known for that. So I don't leave people space to really shortchange the the myriad of personalities you can encounter in the skin. Of all, not just complexions. Like everybody gets focused on like, oh no, you guys can be like light bright, or you can be like dark, 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 and you're just like, no, no, no. It doesn't. It's not just a skin tone thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I always explained. I find myself repeatedly explaining, and I think I'm getting to the point where I'm becoming a bit fatigued with it.
Mm.
Um, I always explain that people need the space to be who they are. And I always end up having to kind of differentiate. Yes, I know it's easier for you. And I know that humans by default would love to categorize things. That's what we do.
Right.
Um, on something technology, we would like to, if it's labeled technology, we want to know that it is such. If we call it an animal species, we would like to know that it's going to be that. And I say, I understand a bit about how we got here, but it's completely unrealistic to think that things that come out of my mouth are going to be representative of the Black woman down the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I'm down the hairstyles. I mean, if you think that everybody enjoys AAVE, everybody doesn't, and it's
Right.
okay.
Right.
It's okay. Some people, and it's kind of I can see them having a hard time connecting my identity with the institution, and an institution like the one I graduated from. And I think, I think that's one of my largest frustrations, is because there's this expectation because of that. And it's almost as if it erases everything I brought to the table. So I forced them to go, no, you know what? I made West Point better because, I was there. It was in the plan for me to, leave a little, like a small of a footprint as it may be.
Right.
But and I'm like, there's a reason why I got in, and it wasn't because West Point made me who I am. I was born with gifts, just like every other person.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, I say I'm unapologetic about it. I don't give people the space to do it. My brothers will tell you. So I have 4 brothers I grew up with in the same house, and they're just like, "Man, you really don't allow people to sell you short." And I said, "No, I can't. I cannot allow it, especially professionally. I need people to be respectful of the differences that we have. Stop trying so hard to categorize. And lastly, I would love to get to a point to where we don't have to continuously explain that. We don't have to. We know that Jim and Frank are 2 different people. I need
Right.
you know, I need you to know my Felicia either. Like,
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm unapologetic about it, and I think I bask in awkwardness and discomfort. I start to cry. It's like, oh, are we uncomfortable? Would you like a fan, sir? So hot. We can cool the kitchen down, but I ain't gonna let you out the kitchen. So it's always that, and I think that's my responsibility, even when it came to like the regulations for hair.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
That's changed over. It's I'm still baffled that it even had to get to this point where it had, yes, you can wear your natural hair. It's unbelievable. But do you think that have you always been outspoken? I know you said your 4 brothers know you, or did you build yourself up to being, blunt and outspoken and not afraid of any backlash?
I'll say that's contingent on the setting. But professionally, I've always been outspoken.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when it comes to relationships, I wasn't as much. As a child, I wasn't as much. I did. Unfortunately, I experienced a lot of like traumas which is sadly a story of a lot of young Black girls. And so I remember there was a period in time in life where literally the only thing that got my true thoughts was my notebook.
Mm,
So
mm.
I kept a notebook every year. That's all I wanted. I was like, I don't care about the binders, the folders. Just let me get a composition book so that I can put some of the ugliest things there and know that I won't be judged because of it. And I'm afraid to crack those things open, but they were funny.
Read back into those emotions that you had at that time. Oh gosh. I think I
Yeah.
understand what you're talking about. I've been telling myself I think I have to burn some of these journals that I used to have just because like I don't know, like what do I do with them?
I might crack them open and be like, oh, I'm intrigued. I think it might help me understand my true self better. But it's just, I was like, oh, I don't know if I have the bandwidth right now, but I certainly know I haven't always been that way because often, especially in a Black community, especially for a young Black girl, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times we don't get the space to say things. We
Right.
have to be so much, and we have to be, you know, um, assertive, but not too assertive. Um, we have to be independent, definitely not needy, but know how to, I guess, allow somebody the space to do things for you. It's like, well, I'm confused. You raised me to be like this. Now I
Yes.
have
You have to be you have to be treated like a princess, but you also have to be independent. So you got to really toe the line very, very, very carefully.
it's crazy. I'll be a warrior. Like, what happens when I'm not the one that you're expecting? Um, it's like, am I going to get this backlash every time? Like, because I don't like it. And I think that was a lot of my frustration in adolescence because I saw the difference between how I was handled and how my brothers were handled. And
Mm.
being prepped to be very domestic. And I remember just developing a disdain for simple things like cooking and cleaning. I was like, man, I do those things well, but no, I'm not. Nope. If I got money, it's not hindering nobody. Come on through and cook something. And I remember I was kind of like rebelling in a sense. I appreciate the skills, but I definitely hated it because I think I was like 23 one time and I was like loading up my car. I was 22, getting ready to go to my first duty station ever. And I'm loading up my car. My mom was like, you ever think about letting somebody help you do your stuff? And I was like, I remember looking at her and I was like, I'm 22. Like, at what point was you going to show me to like tell my brothers, like, if they're not out here putting my stuff in my car for me,
Right.
I guess they're not going to load itself. My luggage is not going to load itself. And
So
I
I
remember
have to,
being so
yeah,
bad.
I gotta do it by myself. I mean, who else am I, I got
Yeah. I'm like, it's like we get taught so much. We get pushed so much responsibility as young girls. We have to be perfect when it comes to relationships. We have to maintain a specific image and make sure we represent our homes well so much. And then on the flip side, I got to see young adolescents be young adolescents in this space to mess up and know that they were going to be okay. And I think I had developed such a disdain for it. I was just like, man, I think like I don't like the idea that young girls have so much expectation and they have to navigate through a society, regardless of whatever relationship choices they make. But the vast majority of us are going to encounter people who probably didn't get the complimentary responsibility put on them. So it's like, it was frustrating. Um, and I've gotten away from it. I definitely recognize that that was a young child in me that, like Ayana says, sometimes you're not talking to the
right.
30-year-old person, you might be talking to 6-year-old Myea. And I had to recognize that maybe she's screaming out for something. And that's what I had to learn to do instead of be so mad at everybody else. It was like, oh, mom, it's your fault. Dad, it's your fault. And my brothers, forget all y'all. Like, no. No. Let's hear what 6-year-old Myea was trying to say, and let's hear her for a change, and let's let her know that she's still loved, and you have to love yourself. So that was like that's the primary means of addressing anything that I like experience emotionally. Any emotion I experience. Okay, all right, let's reset. And you'll be surprised what you discover. And I've been surprised. I've been, disappointed. I gave myself permission to let myself down, but I can't stay there. And
Mhm.
so
Right,
that's
right. Because I mean, it all of it is all part of you. Even the great, the bad, all that stuff is still what makes you you. So you kind of have to acknowledge all parts of it, even the
yeah,
uncomfortable parts.
exactly. It's like we want to be like
Yeah.
humanity country.
It
Like I
never
was like,
happened. It's like whenever, Facebook brings up those memories of the things you posted like a while back and you're like, don't remind me of that. But it's like, no, that was you at one point. It just shows your
boy,
growth. It just shows that you've moved on from there. And
yeah, you know. Like there's that pressure. So you bring up that scenario, and it's crazy because there's this pressure to like I see what happens with a lot of like big influencers, and a lot of times people start to dig up
mm,
when they were younger. And I think society is not gracious enough in acknowledging that like people grow.
mhm.
I get I kind of understand a bit of the outrage, but on the flip side, it's like, okay,
It's
that
almost like
was
maybe at the point where they see that they're about to like, they're doing, like you said, big social influencers. There's a point where they reach that peak, right? So it's almost
mhm.
that like before they reach that peak, they have to now go back and filter their past, because once they reach that peak, someone is going to find something. So they better work
No,
on fixing that, because even if they didn't mean it, even if they've grown from it, it's like society wants you to be perfect. There's no, we forget that people are human beings outside of whatever they post on social media, however they present themselves online, wherever it may be. There's still people who make mistakes. And I think you can generally know if someone has grown, and also when
mhm.
someone is just putting up a facade to look like they've grown from their deep subconscious thoughts.
Yeah, it is just, that's a thing. I definitely I say being able to discern the difference between the two is an art, and you have to hone that constantly because I mean, despite the fact that humanity has not been any different than it has been at the beginning of time, I don't think there's anything new that we can produce when it comes to our experience um, as humans. You remove all the gadgets and all the things that we've created, we still deal with the exact same emotions that Adam, Eve, or whomever it is that we, believe
Mm-hmm.
began mankind.
Right.
Oh my goodness, like I don't think there's anything different. So it's crazy when you see that and it's just like,
You're right about that. That's
mm,
a very interesting point. I mean, jealousy and envy, existed at the beginning of time. It still happens today, So when it comes to the basic human form, basic human needs, there's nothing that has truly, evolved in a sense. We still need all those things, and we still go
I
through
don't
all
think it,
those. Yeah.
yeah, right. It just manifests so differently. You're just like, oh, okay, all right, all right. Now there's cancel culture. Here we are in 2021, cancel culture. Um, what's another thing? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, cancel culture
Um,
is I was like, oh, I have to actually even that's a whole other topic that I was like, that has to like I want to really understand, because I think I posted a question maybe a month back or so, and I was like, do you believe cancel culture exists? Because
mhm,
in a sense, cancel culture, or at least cancel culture, seems so temporary. It's not something that, okay, cool, you don't like what this person did, you show outrage, and then next thing you know, we forget that that outrage happened and everything's back to normal. So did we really cancel that person? It's very rare to see someone that you truly like, oh yeah, they don't exist anymore.
A pause culture at best. It's like,
Right.
oh, like, okay, we're just gonna pay attention to somebody else. And I'm just like, it just speaks to the attention span of the masses. And it kind of substantiates why we shouldn't put so much emphasis on what the majority is doing.
Mm.
I think that's a pressure we should probably release. Unfortunately, we know it's a reality for us, that somebody has the ability to just be like, hey, your employee's doing X, Y, and Z. Did you know that your employee said this online? Did you know this, and that? And they can get another job, probably a better one. It happens. We were mad for 2 days, let it circulate for about 7, and now here we are. It's like, okay, now everybody knows who they are. Now they're
Yeah.
famous.
Speaking of social media, which, I feel like, of course, with everything, there's always a good and bad. One of the things that I see as a good thing in social media is being able to see other people have similar experiences, as you have. So we've all grown up in our different worlds and everything, and we sometimes think that we're the only one that has gone through this. Like, no one understands me. But then a meme shows up that says, that time you forgot your homework, so you reminded someone not to say anything to the teacher or whatever it is. And then we're like, oh my gosh, that happened to me too. We're not. So like you start to realize that, oh, we're not that different. There are some parts of us, of course, that are different, but we're not so crazily different as human beings.
Mhm.
But then there's also the fact that we also see the negative side, that there's some people that go through a lot of things, and we, like you were talking about, how we digest, like how you figure out what you want to digest, in a sense, on our screen, whatever pops up, we kind of just take in, but we don't realize the effect that it has on us. And one of the things that I have been wary for me personally has been just the violent aspect of the Black community, in terms of the things that happen to us. And I find myself being hesitant I don't want to see those things. And it's not because I don't know it exists. It's because I'm super aware that it exists, that I feel that if I keep consuming it, it starts to make me feel resentful, in a sense. And I don't want to be resentful. I want to be aware, but I also, how do you deal with those experiences that flood pretty much every social media platform, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it's everywhere. Like, how do you balance the not being ignorant to what's happening, but also not being resentful?
Oh my God. Man, so that one. It's almost like I'm attempting to hold myself in or close myself off to society because I come off as somebody who thinks everything is a conspiracy. But I sincerely believe that anything that's been, you know, widely accepted, across multiple platforms can't be something that's particularly good all the time. And I see that all the time when it comes to from like sexual content, or adult content. I'll say adult content, excuse me. Adult content, violent content, horror things. And for me, I personally, since I've been able to buy my own television, it's been cartoons all day. But I think one thing that had kind of sparked my decision to do something like that was, you know, I'll read an article about an accident or something like that. And then I'll have a dream that, you know, it was me in an accident.
Mm.
Good. I don't, that's not restful sleep. just as live as day. I can watch someone being, killed, even if it's fake, and that's me. Nobody wants to, die 1,000 times, right?
Right.
It for me, that was what my trigger was. And I advise other people, don't let it get that far. It doesn't have to get to the point where it's bad dreams, because like I said, speaking to the widely accepted notion of a lot of things, often what I'm learning is just because everyone does it doesn't mean it's good for me.
Right.
Uh, so just because there are lots of people who like, share, subscribe to certain content, um, I'll tell you, just because there's millions of people who do it doesn't mean it's for me. And I cannot stress that enough when it comes to social media, when it comes to television, and specifically when it comes to the type of news that's being pushed. And what I've noticed is an increase in the type of content that displays very graphic depictions of, harmful acts towards Black people,
Right.
minority people, specifically Black people. And I'm just like, you know what? In a capitalist world, that makes money because it
Mhm.
catches people's attention. And when you see that there are businesses and corporations and governments that see the value and the capital gain there is to obtain from outrage, I think that maybe we should be more cognizant about who we lend our outrage to. And I think we should make it more expensive. I don't think it should be so cheap that, it's as easy as, did you see this? 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 And it's just like, no, this is not the 1960s. We're not talking about, Emmett Till anymore. Um, we're talking about something that's having a much wider range of impact and a negative impact on a
And
specific community.
instantly too. Instantly.
It's just that fast. I mean, I remember the day I made my little outrage post about, montages. I literally opened a messenger like message, and here it is. And I'm like, what is this? And it's video after video after video after video of police shootings. And I just said, hey, battle, don't send me
This
this
is this
again.
is
Like,
not for me.
who made you? This was for me. And
Right.
I know people, I get it. And it almost makes me question, and this has been a lingering question in my mind, and maybe someone who views this can answer it, but I feel as if sometimes we gravitate towards such negative things because it reminds us that we do have emotions,
Hmm.
because, that evokes such a strong reaction out of us. But when are we going to allow ourselves the space to have a strong reaction on the opposite end of the spectrum? Because we're allowed to, be positively, reactive to things to that degree. And I
Right.
think it's, man, we don't get to be so like that Black boy joy or that Black girl joy. Like, we don't get that often. So it's like, man,
We always have to be angry. We always have to be upset. So we need to see content that fuels that type of energy.
it's like that's the only one we're allowed to feel. And
Yeah.
it's like, we're allowed to be happy. And I mean, expansively happy, like exponentially happy. Please, I encourage it. You'll be surprised. So I think it's almost like, man, it's like maybe we do it because that's just a reminder of our humanity. At least we get to be mad. At least we get to be angry and say,
Even if we
oh,
can't be anything else, we have one type of emotion we can be.
have one. Right. So I don't know. It makes me wonder why, but I'm still trying to like navigate that thing. But I recommend, even if you have to go to like a whole SpongeBob is on loop in your house like mine is. Um, it keeps me safe. I don't have to wake up and call my mom and ask her to pray with me at 2 a.m. as often. I don't have this hyper vigilance about, just walking around. I live in downtown Richmond, and it's just like I walk my dog, and it's a crazy feeling when you don't feel safe in a community you claim is yours. So whatever it takes, you got to be willing to protect you at all costs. And that doesn't always require a gun. Doesn't always require self-defense. Self-defense sometimes starts literally with your mind. So I don't know. I I could go on and on about that because I don't play about I just I had to learn that the hard way, and it's just terrible. I could go into detail, and I just tell people, don't let yourself get to that point. And I think sometimes we almost manifest certain things um, when that's all we focus on. So perhaps when we look to things that are progressive and promote, you know, positive activities, we tend to gravitate more towards it. So I don't know. I like those good posts. I like your posts. That's why I like sharing business posts. Things like better from a black owned business. It's crazy. Like so
Thank you. Thank you. So I mean we're gonna totally end this on a lighter note. I want to talk about one of the things that I enjoy about your posts, since you even brought that perfect, is you highlight people doing well, you highlight good things, and I think that's part of you, highlighting the joys and stuff that you say that we need to gravitate towards. Yeah, so I want to know, yeah, why, what is the reason behind it? Why do you love posting things like that?
man.
And why is it important for all of us to actually do it too? Let me follow up with that.
I think it's important because, nobody else is doing it. Nobody else is going to do it for you. Just like anybody who's starting a business, anybody who's starting a platform or establishing their own platform, at the beginning, it's just you. And I'm hopeful that people gravitate towards things like that to be like, hey, I thought about you today and this song came up. And it could be the most random things, but I think we have to make a decision to be positive. That's my blood type, by the way. Um, Shout out to positive stuff. But yeah, like I definitely think it's important, and I'm hopeful that we change the narrative, and I really hope that we recognize that just because it makes the masses more money for us to be angry doesn't mean it's going to be the healthiest thing, and eventually, um, you know, especially for us and for people who participate in businesses like you do, what can happen is since you are changing the narrative, since you are actively working to do something different than what other people are doing, um, not only will other people gravitate towards your cause, um, it'll be the benefits are yours for claiming as long as you maintain, the power and the everything that's yours is yours. Nobody can take it from you. So, I know there's a lot of narratives about, who controls records, who controls media, who controls X, Y, and Z. And one fact that no one can deny is that the Black community, we are big consumers. And there's a lot to gain from your own community when you get to uplift them. And most people like to be talked about. Most people, like, you want to get a conversation, go ask somebody about themselves. Trust me, unless you run into like a random insert zodiac sign. I don't know which ones do it, but the ones that don't talk, I don't know. But like, I think I think that it's important to maintain a sense of community. And the only way to do that is to start with yourself again, all over again. And hopefully people gravitate towards it, period.
Mhm.
We are paying attention, even if we don't like the post, even if we don't share it, we're paying attention, trust me. And even though the algorithm, you know, I kid you not, what I had noticed, a lot of stuff got filtered out of my news feeds
Mm.
unanimously across all platforms when I stopped, pausing to look at it. So the algorithm, as smart and as intelligent as it has been designed to be, it still requires you to provide input. It cannot generate anything without your input, and you can change that. And I say that with anything in life. Change it. If you don't like where it's looking, change what it is that you change your environment. Change how you speak. I can't sing certain lyrics in certain songs, and I'm a Lil Wayne fan. like I had to stop doing. I was like, I guess I got to stop. Like, and
Right.
that's like that's that accountability piece. Yes, a lower version of myself or a growing, improving version of myself didn't mind uttering certain things at some point, but honestly, I'm gonna tell you, like, once you change all that, your feed starts to look better. You start to subscribe to it. Now you're sharing all kinds of stuff. There's so many people. Like, I had no clue how many business owners I was in touch with 10 years ago, 6 years ago. And now I'm just like, man, this is amazing. I feel inspired and I love to see it. I have a great friend who he doesn't hold back anything when it comes to any beneficial information he can share with anybody. And I feel the same way. I feel like it's my job, it's my duty. We focus on voting. My duty is to my community. Let's uplift it, and we can do a lot with that. So that's how and why I do it. Um, because I just got tired. You get tired. Your body don't feel that. I'll be looking at people like your body don't feel this. You don't feel that. Like your head don't hurt when you type this angry post. Like, I want my blood pressure lower. So if I see like 5 posts like that in a month, I'll just quietly just, all right, I guess that was enough. They were a good person. So
Yeah, I guess like you said, it goes back to controlling, what we consume and focusing on how to better ourselves. So we, like you said, we got to start internally and then fixing ourselves, and then also what we surround that self with, so we can be the best version of ourselves as much as we can.
and I don't want people to think I'm like creating some la la land. Like we acknowledge that there are atrocities out there. Like that's
Absolutely, absolutely.
I can imagine people right now just being like, oh no, like, but that's unrealistic. People are still dying. People are still going through these things, and I'm just like, yeah, I know, I understand. Um, you know, I don't even want to say unfortunately. The thing about life, one thing that is a part of life is death, and that's in all things. All things don't live forever. And I think we shouldn't have such a, what do you call that, dreadful outlook on it.
Right.
I'm trying to find out how to manage my selfish emotions when it comes to it because naturally we don't always want to let go of some things. And in the meantime, we end up hoarding things and it
Mm-hmm.
becomes unsafe when you hold on to things and you don't allow it to live its life for you, like live in that lifetime that it was set to live for you. And so it's that's one of the priorities I'm trying to manage now is, just being patient with a part of a process we all know happens. And that may be the death of a friendship. It may be the death of someone on this physical realm. It may be, my car no longer working for me or my phone doing that. But we have to understand that, everything has its season and appreciate that season that we had it for and take what growth we can from that season. So I don't know, like it's where I'm starting to feel.
It's part of life, right? The ups and downs and the different seasons and what we learn and gain from it.
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, we're not crazy. You're not going to step on our necks either. That's key, and that's
That's
like boundaries are key. Um, but maybe you should set a boundary for yourself because sometimes we don't even respect our own boundaries. So I don't know. I don't want people to think I'm like endorsing this notion of being pushovers and almost like a pacifist. I may be misdefining um, the notion of what pacifism is, but like part of life involves violence, and hopefully we don't have to partake in it. And if we encounter it, we know how to handle it. And I believe that we all get our skills and our gifts to apply them whenever they are needed. But I don't know. I don't want anybody thinking that. I'm still pro. I say Black experience, improving the Black experience because I am Black. I know everybody else has interesting experiences and they could probably counter everything I say with an example. But, this one's important to me because this is the body I've been given. This
Mhm.
has been the experience I've been given. And there's a community I'm a part of. I don't plan on detaching from.
Right,
um,
right. Absolutely.
I don't plan on detaching from it all. So it's just, of course, yeah, we understand that. We do. And I don't wish any harm on anybody, but no, I do not condone anybody just playing us either. We not finna get played. We that phrase finna get played. I don't know. Anybody listen to Moneybag Yo?
I definitely feel you on that. It's not that you, like I said, it's not about being ignorant about how the world is and how it works. But it's also learning how to live within that world that's not always favorable to you, not always kind to you, you know?
Mhm.
So absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that you took the time to kind of like go into all these different it's a topic that can't it doesn't end here. That's the thing. It's not something that it's one conversation and then we're done with it. It has so many layers to it, so many layers. But I think the more we really peel it apart and find out more and really get to the nitty gritty, and even if we know what it is, we have to now start finding the solution for it, you know because
Mhm.
the problems are there. A lot of us know what it is. We're not blind to it, but it's like, okay, now we need to find the solutions to move on from it, to be better, you know.
Yeah.
So
Eventually, will be in a great future. I don't think there will be any space for certain things that exist like that when they realize, well, we're not paying attention to it anymore. So I don't know why you get this off my screen.
right.
So I would love to see that to where you know there's no more financial gain
Mhm.
in this rage and this pain, because I definitely think people are capitalizing on our the negative aspects of our community, and I can hardly wait to be floating around as a star somewhere and witnessing like, oh man, look, Earth, they did it. Okay, I see it,
that's
and
that's a beautiful concept.
you know, and maybe it'll just cycle all the way around, and it'll just be a different group. I don't know.
Hmm.
So it'll be interesting. Eventually, I think it could be a point to where no, it just doesn't make money, and that's going to require us to stop paying attention to
Right.
it. It's like I had to do. My dog doesn't bark in my house because when she was a puppy, I had read they were like, any attention is good attention to a dog, whether it be corrective, whether it be praise, and it's still good attention. So as long as you pay attention to something, it'll kind of enable certain behaviors. And the way I was able to get her house broken, the way I was able to get her to realize like chewing's bad and barking
I'm
nonstop
not
is
going to
not.
give you that attention.
I would walk away. The minute she started, I would put her down and I would walk away. And she hated that I couldn't pay attention to her. And I think almost if you're able to do something like that with, larger on a larger scale and be like, oh man, they're not even paying attention, not even a bad attention. Even a thumbs down gets generated. So
Right. Right.
it's something to be thought about there. So I don't know. Eventually we'll get there and pay attention to these fine kings and queens walking around here looking moisturized. You know,
Moisture is key.
these fine queens walking around here moisturized, doing things, making it happen for society. And I think it'll be too late then because you'll have generated as much wealth, income, and buzz as you wanted to, and you won't even be able to access what it is that you're doing now. So too late.
Hey,
I can put in what they call it. They used to call them the ethnic aisles in the hairstyles.
yeah.
You can put one in there for Clairol or herbal essences or something, and have it locked up in safes. No, that's not the answer. That is not the answer. Please don't ramble.
She's like, I'm not gonna be petty. I'm not. Okay.
I'm not gonna. You know what? Anyway, I'm rambling. But yes, thank you. You
This
can give
is
me like release for the evening because I didn't get to do my talk yesterday naturally because
this is
of
good.
birthday.
This was a lot of fun and definitely a lot of insight, and I definitely learned a lot more about you today, and I'm so glad I was able to do that.
Yeah, I got your number now, so I get to like send memes and stuff.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to them. I'm definitely looking forward to the continued experience and conversation.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Tuesday Talks. Until next time. Bye.